Okay, welcome guys to the weekly meeting. So have some information for you guys about what's going on, some more updates. Let me just grab a link real fast though. So I think one of the first things I should do is remind people who may not have been paying as close attention that there is a swap going on that has started. And we're currently in the process of moving from the temporary blockchain over to EOS. And I'm going to put the link to the article that we previously posted in the chat. This will be included in the video description. There isn't a drastic rush to swap over to EOS at this point in time. It's very crucial that you do swap before the deadline, which is September 1st, 2019. If you fail to do so within this time frame, which is about a year, you will not be able to claim your Atmos on EOS, as any outstanding Atmos that is unclaimed at that point in time will be burned indefinitely. It's very important that you at least get it done before the deadline, but there isn't a crucial rush to do it as soon as possible. With that said, not too long ago, we put out an article detailing some things about the off-chain token scheme that we are using, and to try to explain that to people who might not be familiar with such a setup. So I'm going to also link that in the chat, and that'll be included in the video description as well. Now, this article that we wrote here was really the first, I guess, writing piece, aside from some of the technical literature that we have on GitHub, that really talked about the intent to use Monero's privacy scheme on EOS. And previously, the white paper that we had written, which talks about the project and our overall goals and how we're going to approach things, hadn't mentioned and how it's used up. And oh, sorry, can you hear me okay? Okay, sorry. There have been some revisions to the white paper, now including a section directly about Atmos, detailing some of the things of how it works and how it's going to tie into the overall system, including how the overall staking setup works and what the benefits of that are. So if you haven't checked it out, you can check the white paper out at our main site, novasphere.io, and then just click the button that says white paper. So last week I said there was going to be some updates coming out, but I've had to delay some of those updates due to some of the refactoring that we've been doing on the back end, sort of things that's going to allow for a lot more leeway and flexibility in terms of building things. So some of the added functionality that's coming from this refactoring is right now there's a lot of manual process involved in terms of a user setting up Novasphere DB. So at this point in time, what I've always told people was if you do want to try running it yourself, you can contact me, because more or less I'm fairly certain that most people will run into trouble in terms of setting it up, as in they won't be able to figure it out themselves. But we're looking to greatly simplify this process, and as long as you have the prerequisites installed, it should be as simple as just running a simple script, and that'll auto sync everything from scratch from the EOS blockchain. We're also looking to introduce an account state API, and I should probably explain a little bit about what that is. So mutable variables haven't really existed in Novasphere DB up until this point, and so what I mean by a mutable variable, it's a variable that can change once a value has been assigned to it. So typically speaking, in terms of EOS, anytime you wanted a mutable variable, you would be storing that in RAM. So that would have to be paid for by someone using a non-renewable resource, typically by the user themselves. In this case, though, I think there's a lot of use cases for mutable variables that are stored off-chain. And so let me give you a few examples of what I mean by that. So one of the killer examples that I see is that a lot of dApps that we see built, be it on EOS or Ethereum or whatever blockchain, we see a lot of them have web integration. We've seen like projects like EOS Forum, like what we're working on. We've seen someone work on a decentralized version of Twitter, and so forth. And so, with a lot of these web applications, you're going to have certain things that relate back to a user specifically. So, for example, maybe that user has a signature they want attached with everything that they're doing. Maybe that user has a specific avatar they want integrated with all of their dApps. Now, these aren't really things that need to be stored in the RAM in terms of EOS, because at the end of the day, it's not really critical. And it's not really the dApp so much itself that's using them in terms of when I say the dApp, I mean the dApp on the blockchain itself. It's more so just it's a presentation aspect that we want to show back to the user in the visual interface of the dApp. So this information doesn't actually need to be stored in RAM. It can be stored using an off-chain method. But the trouble with doing that is at this point in time, there's no easy way of querying that information from at least the block producers. So what Novasphere would allow people to do, the first way that we're introducing mutable variables is you'll be able to set mutable variables that are specific to your account. So I'm going to put a screenshot in the chat to sort of give you an idea of what this looks like. And how it's being used, since it's not currently published to the main servers. Give me one moment, and we can include this screenshot in the video description as well. So Road Crypto asks, can't you make something resembling JSON, or is that what you're talking about? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. It looks exactly like JSON. It works exactly like it. So what you can see in the picture that I just shared, you have certain variable names in the state of the user, and you have certain values associated with that, and you also have a transaction ID associated with that. So just in case you don't trust the data source that you're querying from Novasphere DB, you can then take the transaction ID that's supplied to you, query the EOS blockchain via a block producer, and then you can verify that that information is really on chain, and that this is information that the user themselves has put on chain. So this makes querying off-chain mutable variables a lot easier. And these can be easily updated at any point in time, and I think this is extremely useful to dApps, and it's going to be extremely useful to us in terms of building EOS form. So one of the use cases for mutable variables that are stored off-chain, one of the suggestions that we've previously had for EOS form is, can we have polls on the form? And there's two ways we can approach this, which is if you can either store the results of the form in RAM, or you can use an off-chain tally and use a mutable variable, just as we're doing here with the account state. And so that was more or less our plan in terms of why we were building out this functionality, was to use it for these sort of things. So we recently launched our own contract that we started using for this. Previously, before, we were using the EOS file store contract sort of just as a testing grounds for seeing how the system plays out. So we've launched our own contract now at the Novasphere DB. There's an account actually called Novasphere DB on EOS, and we're going to be launching a try it page fairly soon, which allows you to push data to the database and then also query data from that database. and you'll be able to set the endpoint, so you can use either the standard db.novasphere.io, which is the Novasphere DB instance that we provide, or you can even run one yourself on localhost and then query it directly from localhost. So I think this is going to help a lot in terms of building things. Now, one of the more important, I guess, announcements that I saved towards the end, which I guess I'll make a more formal announcement as well in on Discord, and maybe I'll talk about it in the blog post as well, is so I have recently been talking with Code Blue about his project and what his goals are for it and where we see that going. And we have decided that we're going to put forward a mutual effort on this. So I am bringing Code Blue essentially into the project now as a paid developer. And we are going to be focusing on the video aspect that he was originally working on, which is the anime side of things. And then we're going to be adding additional functionality into that to support the existing infrastructure, which is videos that might be, like, for example, movies and that sort of thing. And this is a very flexible system that we're going to be creating, so I think it should be easily adaptable for multiple data sources, so it's possible that other developers might come in along the way and help expand upon things. And I guess one of the other major announcements that I have, but this is sort of a little bit off, is I do have someone who is going to be coming in and also working with the Novasphere team to sort of help on the QA side of things. And so when I say the QA side of things, I mean more rigorous testing, ensuring that there isn't any bugs, going over user experience, and they do come from a QA user experience background, so they will be able to help a lot in terms of pointing out things of how we can simplify things for users, how we can make things feel better for users, how we can overall improve the system. So aside we're going to be starting to look to roll out some of those features that we did delay, which is mainly, as I've always said before, the... Oh, sorry. Okay. Let me just recap over that. So going back to Novasphere in EOS form, now that we've introduced this immutable variable scheme, we're going to be looking to introduce some of the features we previously had planned, which was avatars. I did see a suggestion on the forum about signatures, and it's one of the things that I had in my mind about one of the use cases for mutable off-chain variables. So that could be easily added. And it'll enable us to do things like polls. And finally, one of the most crucial things, I think, to the forum, upvoting and downvoting. Because if you think about it, this is essentially a mutable variable, as the total count in terms of the upvote or downvote of a post or a thread changes over time. And recalculating that every time you need to factoring in delays, there wasn't so much in terms of what was being pushed out for the public to use. So I think that's more or less a good recap of what's going on at this point in time. So if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to help answer them. Or if there are any topics that you guys would like to go over in relation to like what's been going on in terms of the blockchain space, we can go over that sort of things now. So I haven't mentioned his name yet. He will be joining us probably in a few months. It's not going to be very soon, so I guess I'm being a little preemptive on announcing this. But once he is more Uh, yeah, so he's going to be joining the Novosphere team, and this person will be helping out with quality assurance in terms of the applications that we're working on, in terms of helping test these applications and giving us feedback in terms of how we can improve the user experience of these applications. So I'll give more information on that a little bit down the road. It's a pretty preemptive announcement, but I just thought I'd let people know that there are going to be some new people coming into the project in the near future. Yeah, so Fixed asks any update on the EOS-based Atmos with Scatter. Um, so yes, there's going to be some integration into the form this week, and it'll start showing up in your profile from there. You'll be able to tip people on the forum via Atmos. And after upvoting has been implemented, we'll be implementing the scheme later where Atmos will actually influence how much upvoting power you have. Now, if your question was more targeted towards um, in terms of using Atmos in the Scatter wallet itself, we did submit a pull request to EOS Cafe, which they run a list of all the EOS tokens, and so we're just waiting for them to process. We're just waiting for them to process that pull request at this point in time. So I'll put this link in the meetup chat, but I don't think it's important enough to include in the video description. So once they process that pull request and they merge it into their repository, it'll show up in Scatter as well as other applications like Blocks.io. I mean, you're free to message them if you want. I'm not sure if they have a Telegram. But yeah, EOS Cafe is the team that's currently handling that. So if you guys have any other questions, we can go over that. I think it actually, in hindsight, it could be kind of a bad thing if a lot of applications um, rely too much on that list by EOS Cafe. But I guess we'll see what ends up happening. Scatter themselves don't actually. So Road Crypto asks if I should bug Scatter and let them work. Yeah, so you don't need to bug Scatter about anything. They don't need to do anything on their end. Once this pull request is merged to EOS Cafe, the Atmos token will show up automatically in the Scatter wallet. Lutz, did you have any questions you wanted me to go over? I know you wanted me to explain some stuff previously to you before, but I don't recall exactly what it was. So, I mean, I'm happy to go over that now if you want. Yeah, no problem. Did any of you guys watch the the EOS hackathon, the presentations at the end. I linked the video before in the EOS channel, the closing ceremony. What do you think about the winners that they chose? So I'll go over and give my thoughts on it as you're typing. I thought that the winner, who was the builder of EOS Shield, wasn't really that interesting. I felt like there was a huge disconnect in terms of participants understanding what a Sybil attack is, how a Sybil attack is used, and possibly even with the judges also knowing and understanding what a Sybil attack is and how it's used. So it sort of has to make me wonder whether Dan, who seemed to be like the only person who was asking questions, if he was willing to explain to the other judges what a Sybil attack was, because it's clear that he wasn't going to explain what it was in the middle of asking questions to them, because it would sort of be like a, hey, thanks for coming to our hackathon, now let me shit on your idea. So I really didn't expect like something like that to happen, but at the same point in time, I didn't really expect it to get overlooked to the extent that a team that blatantly overlooked Sybil attacks was able to win. Oh yeah, hang on. Looks like you were server muted. I'm not sure why. Try now.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Hello and welcome.
Not sure why you were server muted.
Hello and welcome to Core Video. So what's up, fellas? So I just found the whole thing a little confusing.
The ordinary, really.
I just found the whole thing a little confusing.
Sure. What did you want me to go over?
So is there going to be a token swap?
Yeah. So there already is a token swap. That's
okay. And like, what do I have to do?
Chat. If you just scroll up a bit. Oh, sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay, so if you just scroll up a bit in the meetup chat or you check the announcements, there's a link to a page that sort of explains to you how to do the swap. It's very simple. All you just need to do is go to novasphere.io and then click EOS swap, and it should be very straightforward from there.
All right. And then on that note, there might be quite a few people that have the coin that don't know that they got to do this swap.
Yeah, so we are going to put up an announcement on CoinMarketCap about the swap going on, like how EOS had previously put up an announcement on CoinMarketCap when their swap was going on. And then later, towards the end of the swap, when it's becoming more crucial that people do participate in the swap, probably within the last 2 months, we're going to ask Cryptopia to freeze the markets in the last month, but put up a notice for like the last 2 months, letting people know that, hey, there's a swap going on, make sure you swap over your coins.
It's a lot of months, so they'll have ample time.
Yeah, they have almost a full year. The swap ends September 1st, 2019, so they have a very long time that we've allotted to processing the swap. I mean, it requires no maintenance on our end, but I think that's more than a sufficient amount of time for everyone to get processed.
Gotcha. Is anybody recording this?
Yeah, CryptoMom is recording it, and we've been posting recordings of all of our meetings to YouTube.
Ah, sweet. Okay, and so Now, where we going with
Same.
Atmos? Like, what do you see us doing? Because before I thought Atmos was like a query for IPFS type of solution. Like, what is the solution now? What's the vision? Because I think it's been among many investors right now, the
Okay.
vision's a little blurred as to what it's going to be now.
Okay, so let me clarify. In terms of querying the database, that's entirely free to do. No, you don't need Atmos to actually query the database. Querying the database would essentially be the same thing as, let's say, building an application that uses Novasphere DB, right? So, for
Right.
example, EOSForm, which is an example of an application that uses Novasphere DB, you don't actually need Atmos to use EOSForm. So,
What will people be able to do with it at the end? Like, what's the vision? Like, RADS, does verification, and Komodo is secured by Bitcoin and is decentralized, and there's all sorts of coins out there that have a vision of what am I going to be able to do at the end of the day with it? Like Saya Coin has the rental thing going on, and
yeah, so let me clarify that. We did expand upon this in the white paper to help make it a little more clear to people. So there's going to be two main focuses that we currently see Atmos being used for, but we do see additional focuses. So I'll cover the two main focuses, and then I'll cover some side purposes that we see it could be used for. So the first main purpose that wasn't part of the original scope when we first started planning the project was now that we're on EOS, one of the big things that we see in terms of what's needed is privacy and fungibility, because this isn't very easy to do in terms of doing it in terms of a smart contract. If you do it on Ethereum, it's too expensive in terms of gas costs. If you do it on EOS, it's too expensive in terms of CPU costs. It's not feasible for people to use. Use in production is what I mean. In EOS, actually, I think people would be able to use it, just not very frequently. So
what
the
will
way
they be
we are
using?
so the way we are addressing anonymity is we are implementing a system in which you can take an EOS token and sort of move it to a side chain of EOS, and by doing that on the side chain will implement the same privacy scheme that Monero uses. So that will give any EOS token, including EOS itself, fungibility and privacy on the sidechain. And likewise,
Atmos is the side chain.
yeah, so that ties into it. So I'll get to that in a second. Likewise, you
Okay.
can move the token back from the sidechain to the EOS main chain, and so it's completely one-to-one. So any coins that exist in the sidechain have been moved there from the main chain. Now, in terms of building a sidechain like this, one chain that you might be really familiar with is RSK, Rootstock on Bitcoin, because they had a whole PR piece for a long time about how they were going to be bringing Ethereum smart contracts to Bitcoin. Now,
Right.
in terms of doing that, when you want to move Bitcoin to a sidechain, this is very easy to implement because this is as simple as moving Bitcoin to some script address, like an address that starts with 3, and then having the sidechain monitor that address on Bitcoin, and then creating coins on the sidechain anytime that happens. So that's a very easy thing to implement. What's difficult is when you want to move from the sidechain back to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin doesn't know anything. Because Bitcoin doesn't know anything about what's happening in the sidechain. So the way RSK handles this is they use a federated peg. So essentially, their address where you send bitcoins to move it to the sidechain is just a really big multi-sig wallet. I think they have like 10 participants in it or something like that, and they're reputable quote quote people.
Would that one wallet be a security risk as far as centralization?
Yes, absolutely, because after all, it's a federated peg. So the way we are implementing it in terms of EOS is you're not sending it to a multi-sig wallet so much. You are sending it to a contract address. And that contract essentially acts as a decentralized escrow in this case. And then when you want to move back from the sidechain to the EOS, back to the EOS mainnet, what happens is essentially you have to burn those coins on the sidechain, and then you can create a claim for it on the EOS mainnet via the contract. And then Atmos holders who are staking Atmos, so Atmos stakeholders, are validating the sidechain, and so they essentially vote. And this is done automatically. I don't mean they vote as in like they manually vote. They vote on the validity of the claim that says, "Hey, I burned these tokens on the sidechain. I would like my tokens back." And then if there's enough support in favor of that, this is a valid claim, then that user can withdraw those tokens from the escrow contract. And it's very easy for an exchange or anyone to check if an imbalance has occurred. Because if an imbalance has occurred, so what I mean by an imbalance is, let's say Atmos stakeholders go rogue and they decide to approve invalid proof. So a proof that's not real, and they allow someone to withdraw from the contract that they shouldn't have been able to withdraw. What will end up happening in that case is you'll get an imbalance because there will be less of that type of token in the escrow contract than there is in terms of the auditable supply that's on the sidechain. So it's very easy to detect and very fast to detect. And if an exchange or anyone ever detects this happening, they know that they need to stop accepting that coin, or essentially cease services in terms of it, because clearly something has gone wrong here. And luckily, because of the way EOS works, in this case, this can easily be resolved via arbitration.
Gotcha. Let's get to how you log in. How do I now log into Novosphere? Using the EOS authentication application.
I'm not sure what you mean.
There's like a Google plugin that needs to be installed first, right?
Okay.
And then you have to send like some Bitcoin to it. Open the account.
So on EOS uses accounts. It doesn't use addresses like Bitcoin and Ethereum's do. And to set up an account, someone who already has EOS has to create that account for you. Now, there are services that did I cut out again?
No, you're good.
Okay, so there are services that you can use that will create accounts for you and accept payment through a variety of means. So I'm going to link one service that I've used myself to create a few accounts. So this is one service where you can just pay to create an account. And once you have an account on EOS, you're more or less set. You can create your own accounts from there, and you don't need to use the service again, because you can create all your new accounts from your existing account.
Okay.
Now, at this point in time, to clarify, an obvious question that I think you're going to have is, there is an onboarding difficulty at this point in time in terms of EOS, because people do need to get an account set up before they can actually interact with EOS. But we've already seen that there are some wallets that are providing either very cheap ways of setting up accounts, and the Block One wallet, so Block One being the company that's essentially developing the bulk of EOS, has stated that they're going to be releasing a wallet that provides free accounts for people. So I think once this is a possibility, it's going to heavily overcome the hurdle that is onboarding people to EOS.
Okay, cool. Anybody in our community that can assist in creating an account for people? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. If somebody wants me to create an account for them, I'm more than happy to help them with that. But I generally just recommend people to use the EOS account creator because it's a very simple and easy to use tool. I believe you can even pay with a credit card through that, or you can pay using crypto.
I just want people in the community to know that there's assistance for people that are really not, savvy at all about this stuff. I'm just trying to think. I just saw you had you're having a meeting now, and I jumped in real quick. I would have had questions ready for you.
Yeah, I definitely think the infrastructure is starting to come in for EOS. EOS is only a few months old. I think it's 3 months old at this point in time, maybe 4. So it's not old at all, but the infrastructure is definitely starting to come in. And I think once we have an easy way to create accounts and sort of onboard people to EOS, it's a lot easier to get people to stay because once you have an EOS account, you don't constantly need to be buying more EOS just to use EOS, which is the case with any other with most blockchains because of
Right.
transaction fees.
Right. So there's a where you lose in one area, you gain in another area. So that's good. Uh, what happened to Notorious? Where's the BIG?
So it's been a while since I've talked to him. Last I talked to him, he was having some personal issues, and then I don't really know what's happened from there. So I mean, you can reach out to him if you want.
I did. I tried to hit him up already. I hope he's okay.
I don't really have a lot to comment on his situation because I honestly don't know a lot.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. Is he still part of the project?
I'm sorry, you cut out. Can you say that again?
Is he still part of the project?
Maybe I'm cutting out.
Is he part
Sorry,
of the project?
no. So previously, before, can you hear me okay, or am I cutting
Yeah.
out?
No, you're good, man. If it's me, let me know.
Okay, okay, yeah, because I was hearing you cut out a few times. Yeah. So previously, we were using some resources through him. So we were getting our legal counsel through people that he sort of referred us to. But since then, at this point in time, we're no longer going through his resources, and he hasn't been directly involved in the project for at least the last few months.
Okay. All right. And any other partnerships, or do we have any partnerships with anybody, or is this this is all your show now?
So I
Any
did
other people
announce
involved?
earlier at this. I did announce earlier at this meeting that I am bringing another developer on. His name is Code Blue. Maybe you've seen him in the community. He's
Oh
been
yeah.
working on an anime streaming service, so that's going to become one of our focuses that we're going to be working on. In
Ah,
terms
nice.
of developing
Naruto,
numbers for
Bleach.
that.
I love anime. Cool.
So that's going to be one of the services that we're focusing on. And then I have another person that I've preemptively sort of announced that I'm bringing on, and they're going to be helping with quality assurance. So what I mean by that is sort of helping test things and user experience, unit testing, that sort of thing.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So what's the next milestone we're looking at as far as a roadmap? What's the next milestone?
So we have a Trello. I'll put the link to it in the meetup chat. Give me a sec. So it really depends on which project it is you're talking about. So, for example, if you mean so in terms of Atmos itself, there's a few things that's being worked on, which is the staking system in terms of EOS. So the staking system heavily ties in to moving coins back and forth between the side chain and the main chain.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other aspect that we're working on is implementing the Monero privacy scheme. So using stealth addresses, ring signatures, and confidential transactions.
All right.
So previous to implementing the Monero scheme, what we did was we implemented the scheme that sort of Bitcoin uses, which is the pseudo anonymity provided from being able to arbitrarily generate addresses. Because obviously, in the case of EOS, if you think about it, you can't so much arbitrarily generate accounts. You can, but you'd have to like pay every time you want to create an account.
Right.
Whereas on Ethereum or Bitcoin, you can arbitrarily create addresses, but typically on Ethereum, a lot of people just tend to reuse one address.
Right.
In terms of the form, some of the things that are coming out that we've crucially needed for a while now is self-moderation features. So at this point in time, there's not really a good way of dealing with spam on the form. And that's going to be dealt with. One of the ways it's going to be dealt with is by implementing an upvote downvote system. So it's going to start making the form a lot closer to functionality that we have on Reddit.
Right. Is that how you like? How do you plan on moderating in the future? Will you have actual people moderators, or is this going to be some type of filtration setup?
Okay, so if you refer to the EOS form document on GitHub, so I'll link that to you in the meetup chat as well.
Right.
You can, one of the ways that people can self-moderate is you have two ways of doing it, which is you yourself can, for example, ignore posts, or you can block users, which all that does is it prevents you visually from seeing that user's posts or that user's threads. And we know that a lot of people are not going to want to take the liberty of needing to self-moderate. And so for that, you can also delegate moderation to someone you trust, right? And so by delegating moderation to someone you trust, you can essentially copy who they block, who they choose to which posts they block, and which users they think are posting spam. And if at any point in time you think one of these users that you've delegated as a moderator is starting to abuse their power, you can stop you can stop using them as a moderator and delegate to someone else.
Gotcha.
So this becomes more of like moderators as a service instead of like centralized parties forced to be moderator.
Any benefits to being a moderator? A moderator? Any payout to that? Is there any reward to being a moderator? Can you hear me?
You cut out for a bit there, or maybe I did.
Any reward to being a moderator?
So there isn't at this point in time that's directly built into the service, but this could be built I'm struggling to pronounce this word, but it could be I'll use a different word. It can be implemented externally into the system, and like I said, it can be ran as moderators as a service. So to gain access to this person's curated list of blocked posts, blocked users, maybe you have to pay some sort of a subscription fee to like that service cool. Or something like that.
Cool. So if I were to put, me, myself, and my personal, what I've been doing, I want to decentralize my radio station. I no longer want to be on a centralized solution. And I no longer, being an SEO expert, I no longer want to follow Google's algorithm. So I don't want to help them in any way. I don't want to help them perfect their algorithm by, all these rules. You have to have this here and that there, and So we want to decentralize everything. Mm-hmm. If I were to put my stuff on I guess Novosphere. Mm-hmm. Is that where it is? Would that be considered decentralized? Because it's still on a site, right?
So what you can do, for example, is one of the core principles that we had when developing Novosphere is that we believe anyone should be able to self-host, and you shouldn't be forced to use a centrally hosted website. Now, for example, it's very convenient to just go to eosforum.org and post, go through there via the form. But if a user really wants, they can run Novosphere DB themselves locally, and then they can configure EOS Forum, the client-side software, to use the local database. So when you post things to Novosphere, it's decentralized in the sense that anyone can get access to that information, and they don't need to get it directly through the centralized websites that are provided. And Mode Crypto brought up hashtags, which is something that we already have planned to implement on the forum.
Yeah, tags are very important. I mean, not that I care to follow SEO anymore, but they are still important. That's actually one of the leading ways now to find things on websites.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Category. Yeah, I mean, I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I'm not sure how much you know about SEO, but one of the main drawbacks of the way we're currently processing things in terms of how we host the site and how we allow users to host the site is the site operates as a single page application, which generally speaking, there's a lot of hurdles in terms of making a single page application very SEO friendly in the first place.
Right, because it's not like creating a simple website, right? It's an actual application on the web.
Well,
Is that it?
it's because the content isn't on a static page or URL itself. A lot of that data gets streamlined in via JavaScript. So if you were to load the page, which a lot of search engines do without executing any JavaScript, really all you see is a plain page without anything on it. Whereas a
Yes,
lot of
yes,
websites will do the processing on the back end, and then
right.
they'll send the fully processed page back to the user. Whereas on a single page application, you do it in reverse. You're doing
I understand. It's like a video or Flash, Java. They can't be read by the spiders.
yes, exactly. And now Google does some processing in terms of single page applications, but it's not really clear in terms of to what extent they execute the JavaScript. So
Well, hey, that's actually pretty on my theme these days. And
by the way,
what
I'm
I'm
not
trying to
sure
do.
how close you've been following IPFS, but I have seen some discussions on the GitHub about doing live streaming with IPFS. So I think that may come some point in the future.
Oh yeah, well, I'm excited, man. I'm still waiting on Filecoin. I think everybody is, just to see what that's good. There was an update that was put out. I was pretty excited about it, but it looks like it's going to operate. I was really sad. It looks like it's going to operate on like a contracting like Saya, where someone's got to fulfill a contract. And it doesn't seem to be working that well for Saya. It's not very profitable at all for anybody to do it. So that was really disappointing. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. I think another thing that is something to look forward to, but still a lot very up in the air, is if you look at the EOS white paper, one of the things they talk about in the white paper is they talk about a file storage system as well on EOS. And there have been attempts at this point in time to sort of hack in existing file storage mechanisms, as in storing the entire file on the blockchain, which we know is not a good idea to EOS. So I'm sort of looking forward to seeing what happens in the future in terms of what they develop as a file system on EOS. Because I think a native file system on EOS will be extremely beneficial to a lot of the dApps that are building on EOS.
All right. Well, I'd have to trust you on that one because I don't know anything about that. I was really excited. I would have been really excited if there was like some type of proof of work. That would have been awesome. Why wasn't there? Wasn't that part of the vote? I think to have like a partial proof of work.
So one of the older plans was to have. Yes, we can hear you. One of the older plans was to have an inflation where some of that went to a DAO funding contract and some of that went to other various things, like for example a pool where people could mine from. But in the end, the route that we ended up going was we went for a fixed supply. So there's never any direct inflation to Atmos. Now, in terms of can POW be implemented into Atmos in a usable way, it is possible in the sense that so the way stakers earn Atmos in this system or other various tokens is when they stake, they help process validating moving between the sidechain and the main chain. And some of those fees, for example, could go to a DAO contract or a mining contract where then people could participate via POW to earn those fees. But the downside to that is it would take away earning from stakers to do so. And it's hard to say how profitable staking will be early on because the profitability of staking is heavily contingent on cash flow between the main chain and the side chain.
All right, I was just saying it would have, like I've seen a lot of recently successful coins because that's what I do. I monitor a lot of coins, and a lot of the proof of work coins really skyrocketed. I'm not going to say any names, but this one coin has 50% proof of stake and 50% proof of work. And oh my God, dude, the community built up beautifully. I mean, filled like crazy. It was like people were hungry for it. It was insane. People are always hungry for something new, like a CPU mineable coin or a hard drive mineable coin, because you can't really mine anything. That's why I was disappointed with Filecoin. I was hoping that 85% would be mineable, kind of like Burst coin is mineable, but at this point, not really worth mining it.
Yeah, yes, I mean, my main point to highlight was more so that I wouldn't completely rule out that it won't be possible to earn Atmos via PAL. That might be something possible in the future, depending on where the community wants to go with things.
All right, man. Next time I'll have more questions for you. I've been just been vacationing, honestly. I took a little break and we just took summer off.
Sure, yeah. Everyone needs a break now and again. We do weekly meetings now on Monday. Typically around this time, we usually start about an hour from now, or an hour earlier than now. So yeah, but if you ever want to schedule a meetup on your radio, we could always host it on there as well.
Well, the radio is changing. It's going to now be called House of Crypto. It's going to be in.
So you're still partnered with House, or?
Yeah, me and House, we talk every night. Mm-hmm.
I gotcha.
House is my man, dude. He's my dog.
Okay.
So and anything we do together. But he's really great with press releases. He knows the guys to contact to have press releases go in specific spots. Like countries and towns. And he does. He's got a lot of connections. I'll get back to doing the radio soon. I'm tired of taking on like 50 little clients. I just want to concentrate like on one project because it's easier to immerse yourself in one thing, right? And be, know it inside out. And you really need to know some of these projects, like technically too. It's a big research, and then some of them are so vague. It's even harder to understand what the hell they're trying to do, So at the end of the day, it's like, just give me 2-3 good projects that I could work with, and that's all that I want.
Yeah, okay. Keep you posted on the reading thing.
It's just too much to keep up with, and then you gotta ask yourself, do I trust this guy? Do I not trust this guy? Right? Who wants to deal with that all day long?
Yeah, I completely understand. So I think we're gonna wrap it up there for this week's meeting. And,
all right, guys.
We'll be in touch.
All right, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming out. Thank you guys for listening. Take care, everyone.
Later, fellas. Is that like